Good morning. This is Anna Crowe with the Get Real podcast, where CEOs, CMOs, and communications experts share their real advice. It's 5 questions under 9 minutes because we get to it real fast. So let's get to it. I'm really excited to have today's guest on. And if you sense this, could you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. And Anna, thank you for having me today. Really appreciate it. My name is TJ Rancour. I consider myself a thought leader in the IoT and technology space. I'm an avid outdoor enthusiast. I love to play video games in my free time, and I love to deal with all things technology related. I'm the president here at CalChip Connected Devices, where we're a IoT distributor of products globally.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so excited to speak with you today, TJ. And as you know, this podcast is all about connections and getting real. And my first question is around creating authentic connections. I hear from other successful executives that creating authentic connections with customers and your teams can be challenging when it's very noisy out there. What's your take on that?
So the key is really about how to filter that noise out. And my take on that is, and my suggestion to other leaders out there is really to take the time to actively listen, right? Really spend time listening to understand what's specifically in front of you, because you're right. There's a lot of noise coming in from a lot of different directions, but the ability to really focus on what's in front of you now with that person or that teammate allows the rest of the relationship to fall into place organically. Because when you're listening actively, right, you're real time trying to figure out solutions and ways to help whether the customer or the teammate, or even if it's your brother and sister. So that would be my number one item around successful executives and creating authentic connections.
I love that. So listen to understand versus to respond, right? Really take it
exactly.
in. Yep. And I think a lot of people pride themselves on multitasking, right? We can do a million different things. We can be on a Zoom, we can bang out a presentation, we can take a call. But to your point, when you're really engaging in the moment, it can make a huge difference, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And engaging in that moment also makes a difference to that other person, because other people can tell when you're not fully listening, right? And when you're trying to create an authentic relationship, you've only got that first shot, right, is your shot to really go do that. And yeah, to your point, right? Sometimes we all pride ourselves on multitasking, but in the grand scheme of things, sometimes it's staying focused on a single task at a time, especially when dealing with people and opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool. Well, do you have any other real advice for other leaders? Is there anything else that you think is essential?
Yeah. The number one essential thing is the continued pursuit of excellence, right? As a leader, we all need to continue to pursue excellence. And that pursuit of excellence and the definition of excellence to some people is different than others. The way I define the pursuit of excellence, and this is tied into a lot of what I talked about around active listening, but listening to understand, right? Acknowledging people and understanding their strengths, right? As you work with people, you begin to understand their strengths, right? And what makes them unique and what skill sets they can bring to the table. And let's be honest, as leaders, we get the most stuff done, and our companies and teams and the people around us are more successful when we know how to leverage them, right? Based on their passions and their skill sets. So my advice again goes back to, that continued pursuit of excellence, actively listening, gaining an understanding of what that person you're talking to, what's their challenge, what are they trying to understand or know, And then being able to add that additional layer of value, right? Because when you're actively listening, it allows us as leaders to brainstorm solutions real time, right? And this all ties into that, ability to create authentic relationships and ultimately drive a leadership stance in the industry. Because the best leaders are the ones that know how to connect the right people and the right ideas and the right skill sets and passion to make something successful.
That's fantastic advice. I thank you for sharing it, and completely agree with you. Leaning into the strengths is so important. And I love your stance on excellence. It's a really powerful and really essential one, to your point earlier. Well, while we've got you on the podcast, are there any other successful executives such as yourself that you would like to acknowledge or give a shout out to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get a shout out to my team here that works at CalChip Connected Devices. They're all executives in my mind. We're all one team striving towards one goal. So I'd like to give a special shout out to our VP of Marketing and E-commerce, Ben Friend. I'd love to get a shout out to our Director of Support Services, Jaslyn Hale. I'd love to get a shout out to our investors, Jason and Jerry, who ultimately were the ones that believed in something here 12 months ago when we started this venture. Um, and then I'd love to just give a special thank you to my mom. So my mom is the superintendent of a school district in Michigan and one of the top educators in the state. And when I grew up, she worked at a gas station and would haul me around in a red wagon to and from daycare. And we always knew, my dad always knew that there was something special about her. So at 27, she picked up her stuff and said, I'm going to go back to school. She got her bachelor's degree, which then turned into a master's. And within 13 years had made it all the way from a teacher to a superintendent of a school district. And she's the person that I really look up to, and that helped mold me as a young child. I mean, I grew up with my mom working 2 jobs, going to school, right? But her continued pursuit of excellence what drove her to be able to accomplish these. And ultimately, and I probably don't tell her this enough, right? With, what she did there subconsciously was she instilled these same values that I'm touting today in me as a youngster. So since I was a youngster. And
Wow.
then one other shout out I'd like to give, because, this company and organization did a lot for me as a young individual up through 18 as the Boys and Girls Club of America. So in 2005, I was National Youth of the Year for all the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And the Boys and Girls Club was my home growing up. And my mentors and the kids at the club, and everybody that came together to help nurture me as an individual and help me understand, how to work in groups and how to deal with people and ultimately how to go change the world for a better place is something I just want to throw out there too. So I'd like to give a special shout out to them.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing that story about your mom. She sounds incredible. And what a fantastic role model for you. And 100% just determination and culture of excellence seems like runs through her veins, and definitely was an inspiration for you. So I really appreciate you sharing that amazing story. Thank you. And yes,
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, and of course, great organization. So I appreciate you shouting them out. Well, our final question is more of a fun one. You've had this business now, as you said, for over a year, and you've had a fantastic career. But tell us how you got started. What was your first job?
So when I was 14 years old, this is a fun one. When I was 14 years old, I wanted to get a pair of Jordan tennis shoes, and I wanted to get a CD player. a little, handheld CD player. And my mom said, well, you're going to need to have to find a job. So there's a place called Deer Acres. It was about 5 miles from where I lived. It was a child amusement park. So they had elephants and crocodiles and birds, and you could go in and walk around. There was a little safari ride, right, that families could get on and drive around like a little safari. It was, no bigger than probably, 50 to 60 acres of land. But I got on my bike, I rode 5 miles, I applied at 14, and I got a job as a gorilla on the safari ride. So I got to dress up in a gorilla costume. It was in the middle of summer in Michigan. I had this little house I would sit in with my gorilla costume. And when the safari ride would come around, I'd throw my hat on, I'd get out and beat my chest and, act like a gorilla. I did that 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And by the end of summer, I'd saved up enough money for that CD player and those shoes. So that was my first job. And ever since then, it's all been about pursuing excellence and just working hard and having fun.
That is so awesome. I have to say that's probably the most fun job we've had of someone on the podcast. Very unique, or at least the most unique job. Did you end up getting that Walkman and the shoes? Nice.
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Walkman.
And I even got the
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Discman. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And I even got my first Eminem CD. I still have it. It's like my most cherished possession.
Very cool. I love it. I love it. Great story. Well, I'm so appreciative of your time today. How can people get a hold of you or learn more about what you're doing, TJ?
Yeah. Great question. So you can feel free to find me on LinkedIn under TJ Rancour. You can head to our website, www.connect.com. You can also email me directly at tj@calchipconnect.com.
Fantastic. Well, appreciate you joining, as I mentioned, and thanks everyone for tuning in. This is Anna Crowe. For more insights, visit us at crowepr.com. Thanks so much. Make it a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Anna. Thank you.